Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we talk about 3 or 4 interesting tech topics in the news. Are you being haunted by earthquakes? We're going to get you on your way in about 15, 20 minutes. If you have a news story you wanted us to cover, Creation Station at broward.org comes right to me. Today we have Demarcus Morris. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Took me a minute.
Demarcus sat down in the chair as we're going live. He is just a professional on time at the very last second. Tell us about what you do here at Main Library.
I work in circulation. Uh, Basically, I check the books in, help customers at the service desk, restock shelves.
He's one of the people who makes the library run, folks. All those people in the background who just make things happen. Demarcus is one of them. What service were you in, Demarcus?
Oh, I was in the Navy.
Okay. I can live with that. I was in the Marine Corps, so I can live. I can live with a Navy person here. We had some issues last week, but hey, it's okay. We'll be better than this. And as always, we're featuring veterans all month long in November. It's more than just one day, folks. So the first question I have for you there, Demarcus, do you want to ride in a car without windows?
Question? No, I couldn't do it. No.
This relates to our final story for the day also, folks. In a weird way, we'll get to that. But so the essence here is Polestar, which is a division of Volvo. And they're the electric car division for Volvo. A lot of the same engineers, all the same people work over there. Their newest car, the Polestar 4, which just came out this week. You still can't actually pick one up. They don't get released to the public for the next, I think, 2 weeks. But you can actually buy one and have it shipped to you. They took out the rear view mirror, and they took out the rear window. So technically, you still have a windshield out front, and you still have your driver and passenger side windows, but that's it. And all you have is this very large rear view mirror that's actually a camera that tracks let me see if the other picture has a better. Here you go. Can you imagine looking in your rearview mirror and seeing that?
Nah, I couldn't do it.
So the idea here is you have cameras that are on top of your vehicle that are watching and tracking what goes on behind you and putting it onto a screen that looks a lot like that rear view mirror. Let's scroll back up to that. So that rear view mirror there is what it actually has. It's basically a video screen. You can flip it to actually show, because there's another camera right there underneath. Let me click on that and make it a little bit larger. There's another camera there underneath that shows your rear seat also. So if you want to look at the people in your rear seat, you can, or it'll just show you what's going on behind your vehicle all around on the road and everything like that. Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, very weird.
It's kind of like almost all vehicles now have, all new vehicles do, and if you've got an older vehicle, there's a lot of conversion kits to have a rear view backup camera. So when your camera, when you're backing up, you get a rear view on the front display, or you can buy a display like this for your rear view. But it's weird. It's a full 120 degrees, which is more, I'm with you kind of that I'm not so positive. I'm looking to see if there's a good, clear picture of the little camera on top. This is the only picture that has that camera well up top, that little thing right there. I don't know. This is the way we're going, though. We'll come back to this story at the end, because one of the comments I got from this story was like, oh, hey, yeah, this fits in our perfect thing there. Yeah, hands-free driving, yeah, no. So here's our other story. Are you being haunted by earthquakes? It turns out that in the United States, we had some huge earthquakes in the mid to late 1800s. New Madrid Fault erupted. The New Madrid Fault is in St. Louis. Do you know about the New Madrid, Demarcus?
Not recalling ringing a bell.
So in the 1800s, around New Madrid, there was a huge earthquake. It would have killed millions of people if we had St. Louis, if St. Louis was the same kind of population as now. It was something that was felt as far away as Ohio and on the East Coast. And there's tons of these other earthquakes, some of them in South Carolina and North Carolina, that are just now that scientists have put together all of the documentation. And we're finding that these are actually some aftershocks that are still rattling through the earth from those huge earthquakes in the 1800s. Yeah. It's a weird thing. So in 1886, we didn't have precise measurements back then, but they can kind of figure out by the damage that it was somewhere between a 6.7 and a 7.3 earthquake that toppled tremendous amounts of buildings, etc., right there in southern South Carolina. And those earthquakes are still happening now. The trick and why this is an important story, and as always, let me drop all those into the show notes for you. The trick to why this is really important is knowing, is it a past earthquake that we're being quote unquote haunted by? That is a Bob thing. The professionals do not talk about being haunted by earthquakes. They talk about aftershocks or pre-shocks, which is something you may not know about earthquakes. You can get pre-shocks for an earthquake. You can get those minor little rumblings, minor small earthquakes that happen before a larger, bigger event. They're called pre-shocks instead of earthquakes. Did you know all this stuff, Demarcus? There's a lot of geological stuff that you need to know about earthquakes, isn't there?
Yeah, I didn't know about we still seeing earthquakes in 1800s. That's
Yeah.
blowing my mind.
Yeah, isn't it? And then figuring out, is it an earthquake from the 1800s that we're still getting little aftershocks of? Or are these little pre-shocks for another bigger earthquake that's coming sometime in the course of the next couple decades? Kind of important to know. You would hope. Have you ever had to go through an earthquake, Demarcus?
I slept through one.
Where were you? Where were you?
It was my first duty station in Washington State.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Everybody else slept it. I didn't. I was like, huh? Yeah. I was kind of upset about that.
I was out of 29 Palms, California for training, and we would regularly wake up and it would be like, is that an earthquake? Oh no, that's just a bombing run, because the Air Force, Navy, Army all have a bombing range just on the other side of the mountains from the Marine Corps base. So it would be like, wait, is that? No, that's just another bombing run. So I was like, we never knew whether we were sleeping through an earthquake or sleeping through a bombing run. But that's an interesting thing. Yeah. So you didn't even notice it when you slept through it?
Nope. I know my bed it moved.
Wow. Nice. So that was a significant, I know I'm saying nice, but hey, everybody survived it. Everybody was good. So yeah, I've got a friend in California. She's always telling me, hey, earthquakes in the United States are not like you see in the rest of the world, because we have earthquake resistant buildings. We've built things over the centuries. We've learned how to build them properly, correctly. This is not like some of the other countries in the world where things all of a sudden just dissolve from a moderate earthquake. So stay safe and hope that earthquakes don't haunt you. I know, it's a weird thing. And then we get to the even scarier portion of the show today, folks. For most of the United States, the climate crisis, because that's what it is, climate changed back then. We have some new data. We have some new mapping of showing where things are the worst, where things are going to where they are going to get worse. Not going to go through all the videos, not going to show the scary fire stuff going on. I do want to show this map, because this map here shows where your precipitation is happening and what we traditionally call the 100-year storm. You always hear about that once in 100 years or whatever. and how often does it really happen nowadays? And so the darker the model, the darker the blue, and you'll notice on the Pacific coast, on the Gulf Coast, and up in Maine, you get much darker colors because the storms that used to be 1 in 100 years are now happening every 10 years in those areas. So they're getting a lot more precipitation in some of these areas. Any of this surprise you, Demarcus?
To be honest, not really. We're not taking care of this earth.
I know. There's lots of. I've got a thing to help get you some hope. I got another link in a minute for you on that one. But the one that I was moderately surprised about was South Florida. Look at the map and look at South Florida. We still only get 100-year precipitation events every 100 years. Because we are in a zone of the country, just like you'll notice Nevada, a good chunk of Oregon is, and actually a good chunk of California, at least Southern California, are in areas where the weather is almost locked in to where we're going to be going over the next few decades, which means bad things if you're in Southern California and Nevada, because that's the Colorado River area, and you are not going to be getting more rain. You are not getting more moisture. You're locked in. What you've been doing for the last 30 years of drought is where you're locked in now to keep. In South Florida, on the other hand, where we get our regular rain all the time, if you live in South Florida, you know what I'm talking about these last couple of days. We're locked in. We're in our regular rain patterns. We're not going to experience that super high regularity of rain. Now, I've got a link in the show notes for you, because if you've been paying attention to the news in South Florida, you're like, Bob, you're crazy. We get a tremendous amount of rain. South Florida just hit the 100-inch mark for 2023. We get a lot of rain in South Florida, but we get it on a regular, consistent basis, and we don't actually get a lot of rain that causes extreme flooding, mudslides. We don't have hills to do mudslides on, but that same equivalency of things being ruined because of a lot of rain. You'll remember earlier this year we had that. Did you get caught in that big, huge mess earlier this year when we had like 12 inches of rain inside of 6 hours?
Yeah, but luckily I made it home safely.
Were you at Main Library, or were you already somewhere else?
I was at the Main Library.
Oh, man. I happened to have not been. That was the April 12th event. We had 25 inches of rain hit us in less than 24 hours. And so the good news and bad news. Good news, we're locked into what we're going to be getting. The bad news is that's not a 100-year event anymore. Uh-huh. Yeah.
All right.
So we are in the wettest on record for South Florida, but I'll just pop back over to that map. You can see a lot of the rest of the country, especially east of the Mississippi and on the Gulf Coast here. They're going to be getting a lot more rain, a lot more stuff over the next couple of decades, as that 1 in 100 storm becomes 1 every 50 years or 1 every 20 years. You got family up there, Demarcus?
Most of my family's in Louisiana.
Okay. So they're kind of used to rain already.
Yes.
So, yeah, and with as the water levels rise, are they going to be affected, or are they in New Orleans, or are they where?
They're more north, so
okay, good.
They won't get affected as much.
Yeah, and you can see on this map, there's actually areas that are already locked in for where they are. So that's pretty good. And I know everybody's like, wait, Bob, you're just being such a downer today. No, there's some good stories out there, aren't there? Isn't there? And my answer is yes. Here's a show for you to watch. I'd like you to keep watching our show. But there's one called How We Survive. It's put out by Marketplace, American Public Media. It's a great show. They're already in their 4th season. And instead of it being a climate crisis, oh my gosh, we're all going to die, It's here's how we survive. Here's what we can do to replenish, replace, fix, do stuff. Well, they did one on battery technology. They did one on South Florida a previous season on just what all the protections that we've done down here in South Florida, what the problems are, what the things are you can fix. So go give a listen to this show. This is all talking about water rights and the Colorado and the drought out there that we talked about earlier in the show. So go take a look at it and see. One of the ones we had a huge thing was fashion earlier this year. On season 3, they talked about how much you spend on fashion, how much your fashion is affecting the planet. And you could take a little challenge and see how much are you actually buying that's affecting the rest of the planet. So trust me, Demarcus, things can get good. We can fight this. It's not all rosy, obviously. Realistic. Things are going to get bad. But they're not maybe as bad as they could be if we all pitch in together and help. The big companies need to do more. Government needs to do more, but everybody needs to pitch in. Are you super worried about the climate?
Yeah, sometimes.
Good, and that's what I tell my wife, and I when I'm talking with family, I'm like, good. You need to be worried, but you don't have to obsess about it. It's like the world's not going to end. The world's going to go on. We as humans need to make some adjustments if we want to keep living on it. That's how I always phrase it to everybody. And speaking of how long you want to live here on the planet, women are living a lot longer than men now. And it's getting worse. Maybe I will make a semi-hypothetical joke here of men do crazy things like have cars without rear windows. And so that's why men pass along faster. It used to be getting smaller and smaller. Life expectancy for both men and women was becoming closer together. But especially since the pandemic, the start of the pandemic, it's expanded out a lot. And it is now almost 6 years, 5.8 years that women live longer than men. Is that a crazy idea?
Well, men do stupid stuff.
Yeah. The closest we ever got it was the 4.8 years.
Wow.
Just under 5 years, and now it's closing in on 8. Yeah. So there's a lot of different reasons why this could be happening. One of the primary drivers is actually suicide and accidental deaths. So if you have an issue, you reach out. Do not be stupid and think you got to do it all on your own. There is help out there for you. And in fact, one of the things we're doing for Veterans Day or Veterans Month is our Creation Station Monthly at the end of November is going to be about therapy. And we're talking about the people who do therapy and why they do it. So let's give a tune into the show. But also things that happen is unintentional injuries and unintentional poisoning, which I thought this was an interesting thing in the study. As always, there's a link in the show notes to the actual study to go read. Women die more of intentional poisoning. Men die more of unintentional poisoning. Like men doing stupid stuff, apparently. So don't do this. If you're a guy out there, anywhere in the world, this is basically covering the United States with most of their studies, but please pay attention. Take care of yourself. Go out there and do a little. We talked on the show every so often when they do a new study about you just have to walk a few extra steps or whatever. Just get out there and be safe. Do something to take care of yourself. If you're a man, if you're a woman, please continue to take care of yourself. If you're a woman, work at increasing that gap. You try and live longer, and the men need to try and live longer and catch up to you. How's that one? Are you taking the stairs, Demarcus?
stairs as much as possible.
Good. See, that's how I walk the stairs up 6 flights up to my office every day, back and forth. Make sure you do. Do you feel better?
Oh,
Is that better than the beginning of our disaster?
oh yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here with us, Demarcus, and thank you for being part of all of our Veterans Day /month events here at the library. I'm going to throw up our last slide as we're getting close on time here. If there is someone you want to see featured on this show from the library or your favorite library, reach out. creationstation@broward.org. Next week for the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, we will not be doing our live show, but we will have a show. Catch it on our podcast feeds. We'll see everybody in 2 weeks.